Hello class, so today we're looking at Hume and Hume's problem with causation. So David Hume and his problem with causation by way of Manuel Velasquez's textbook, philosophy text with readings. So I'm having you look at pages 370 through 378. Okay, so it's a short span of pages, but it's helping us get further on how it is that we're understanding empiricism, how it is that we're understanding epistemology, and then obviously Hume's problem with causation, and also the Hume's problem with induction as well. So with Hume and skepticism, I have you looking at this subchapter whereby we're thinking of epistemology as a source of knowledge. So in other words, the study of, so this is another way of identifying the discipline of epistemology. In other words, looking to the sources of how we have knowledge, and likewise the study of epistemology. So in other words, we're continuing with the study of epistemology. So if we haven't already discussed it, David Hume, the philosopher, was a Scottish Enlightenment philosopher from the 18th century. So he was born in 1711 and died in 1776. So he's most noteworthy is the fact that Hume is an empiricist for us, right? And so empiricism is to be contrasted with rationalism. Okay, so empirical philosophy is best understood in its epistemological stance, whereby the way in which we account for the sources of knowledge about the world is strictly by way of perception and perception alone. So, i.e. for thinkers like Hume and his Anglo contemporaries and predecessors like John Locke and George Berkeley, the source of the knowledge that we have of the world is only known by sight, touch, hearing, taste, and smell. So nothing more and nothing less. Okay, so this is to be contrasted with the rationalists like Descartes or Spinoza, or Leibniz, who felt that knowledge is known by way of reason, i.e. reason is innate. Okay, so also recall that the rationalists did not count out the importance of sense perception, yet for the rationalists, sense perception is not to be relied on for the certainty of knowledge. So basically perception is doubtful. It's not precise enough, but still we have access to the world even for the rationalists by way of our perception. Okay, so this gets us a little clearer on how we're understanding epistemology and likewise also empiricism as well. Okay, so then the very basic empiricism is to be seen as distinct from rationalism, right? At least in the hands of David Hume. So now on to the Velasquez reading. We already have a hint that Hume is an empiricist and that he is skeptical of the rationalist idea that we acquire knowledge in any other way than by sense perception, okay? So, in other words, this starts out for Hume with the basis of our knowledge of the world as impressions and ideas, okay? So in his 1748 book, An Inquiry Concerning Human Understanding, which is basically a revision of a work written 8 years earlier, known as the Treatise of Human Nature, that was written somewhere in from 1739 to 1740, something like that, whereby if we're keen to notice, for the sake of a source of knowledge for Hume, we start out with basic impressions, okay? So our knowledge of the world for an empiricist starts with basic impressions, i.e. sense impressions, right? And then so the sense impressions, so we start out with sense impressions, then with less intensity, then with less intensity from a sense perception, we have ideas, and ideas are less vivid and are agglomerations of initial sense perceptual impressions, right? So such operations of knowledge as memories or imagination for Hume are thought to be accumulations of original sense impressions that then are turned into ideas. So, and the ideas can also be fictional, right? So we have the instance of a so-called pink elephant or a golden mountain, with the idea that in our perception of things, we sense such things as the color pink or the metal gold, otherwise, and with our imagination, we put together impressions of gold and pink to such impressions as a mountain to be a gold mountain, or likewise to have the impression of an elephant put together imaginatively as a pink elephant, right? And so that then is fictional idea, but yet it's born out of pure sense impression for the empiricist for Hume, okay? So it's empirical, so we could still have a fictional account of things known empirically, right? And then so essentially, if there are no impressions known by us by way of sense perception, then there are no ideas at all. So for the empiricist, right? So all knowledge is known by way of the senses. So then to the famous problem of causation for Hume, given that for Hume, as we've established, he's an empiricist, so he has this empiricist knowledge of the world that originates with sense perception, as we've established, right? So one elemental way in which we know about the world, in other words, is a way that we understand knowledge itself, and that is by way of causation, okay? So in other words, we understand knowledge by way of causation, and we also understand causation empirically as well, right? So in other words, causation really is the idea that one event causes another, right? So this is not to be confused, by the way, with Leibniz's rationalist principle of sufficient reason, that everything must have a cause, right? So as a matter of fact, Hume's problem with causation from the inquiry reads as this. So, quote, "When we look about us toward external objects and consider the operation of causes," okay, so quote, "When we look about us toward external objects and consider the operation of causes, we are never able in a single instance to discover any power or necessary connection, any quality which binds the effect to the cause," okay? So the key there is necessary connection. So unquote. So for Hume, we have no sense impression of a necessary cause, or better yet, Hume is skeptical of the rational connection that causes are necessarily linked to their effects, okay? So now one pitfall in our thinking is to assume that Hume is doing away with a connection altogether, right? So in other words, he's not doing away with a connection, because there's still a connection between cause and effect. The question is, what is that, right? So Hume is simply skeptical of the necessary connection between cause and effect. but there's still a connection. So this point is important due to the fact that there is a connection, and the connection is habit, or the connection is habitually established, right? So i.e., we habitually bring together cause and effect in the way that we know things, yet there's no necessary connection, and so he's downplaying the rational connection. So all of this is also a segue to Hume's problem with induction, right? So simply because something has caused an event to happen in the past is not a guarantee that similar causes will bring about similar effects in the future. Okay, so such induction is probabilistic. So at the very least, we'll posit that if events in the past happened in a certain way, they'll probably, in other words, it's probabilistic, probably bring about similar causes in the future. Okay, so that's a way in which we know about how it is that events in the past probably will cause events to happen the same way in the future, and this is something that Hume is skeptical of. So for Hume, such way of thinking is not guaranteed because we don't have an actual connection between cause and effect. Remember, he's skeptical of the necessary connection between cause and effect, so therefore he must be skeptical of the necessary connection even if it's probabilistic. Okay, so even probabilistic arguments are also set against or set with demonstrative arguments. So whereby instead of events probably happening for Hume the same way they do in the future as they do for us, okay, with demonstrative arguments for Hume, events always happen, so a certain way in the future. So instead of being probabilistic, we're looking at demonstrative arguments as being simply the case where events in the past will happen the way they do in the future. So in other words, the way things happen in the future is indicative of how they've happened in the past. That's a problem for Hume because we have no guarantee that there's a necessary cause between cause and effect, right? So Hume's dispute is simply that events happen in the past, events that have happened in the past are not necessarily guarantees of what will happen or what will probably happen in the future, right? Okay, so in other words, at least one important point to be made concerning, we have to think of is concerning reason's place for Hume. Okay, so this is also a little bit of a sticking point. So for example, with his problem of causation, Hume is skeptical of reason's importance as a way to link or necessarily necessarily connect cause and effect. In other words, Hume's new empirical connection is established as a habit. In other words, we habitually bring together cause and effect. He's proposing that cause and effect are brought together by way of habit, right? So usually we read this skepticism as Hume's dispensing of reason, but this isn't true. So in other words, Hume does not then just throw reason in the trash. He determines, he dethrones it, if you will. So he lessens reason's importance in our way of acquiring knowledge, in his epistemology, in his empirical epistemology, right? So the thing to remember, though, is that reason is still figured into his philosophy. It's not the importance that it takes on, though, for a rationalist, right? So, in other words, reason is simply a relation to an idea for Hume or a relation to objects, right? So, in other words, reason is still to be accounted for within Hume's philosophy. Its role is is instead no longer a rationalist necessity, though. Okay, so as with Leibniz's principle of sufficient reason, every reason has everything has a reason, so on and so forth. Okay, so I think that will take us to the end of Hume. We'll take it from there, talk more about it in class. Thank you.